I would like to officially call the meeting of the Board of Health for September 16th here in the Don B. Griffin Room. As required by law, the town may audio or video record this meeting. Anybody intending to either audio or video record this open session is required to inform the chair. Is anybody going to be recording this session tonight? Anybody online or present here in the building? No? All right. We will move on. We're going to open with public comment. And I would like to start, we are going to kind of have a slight adjustment to the order of things this evening. We have a couple things I would expect to go pretty quickly. Probably the best attended session that I've been involved in since 2021. I venture a guess there are many of you here to speak about 606 Route 28. I would like to just state ahead of time our responsibility here at the Board of Health as it relates to that operation is to determine the health safety of it. As a longtime Harwich resident myself, I will be disappointed, to see it move on from being the Sunday school. That is the owner's rights. We are here to discuss, is it safe? Is the septic safe? So we are going to open with public comment, and if you would like to be heard and all you want to say, that you're in opposition to it, I would encourage you to just get up and please briefly, state your name and mention that in the public comment. And if you have concerns about the septic, please stay for further discussion
So
later.
I would wait to take public comment on that item until we get to that on the agenda. The public comment is if anybody has anything that's not on the agenda that they want to talk about.
Okay.
Yeah, so the public will have a chance to talk about any of the items on the agenda, but once we get to them.
Fair enough. All right. Then I just want to make sure everybody has a chance. So minutes for the previous meeting, they're August 19th, 2025. Any comments, questions concerns from board members present?
No.
Regarding the minutes, no.
I think we noticed that the month and date is not on the actual minutes itself, so it's on the bottom, but we just, up top, it's not, so we'll just make that small edit.
I saw it on the bottom, yeah.
I make a motion to accept the minutes of August.
Second?
Second, vote?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Moving on for minutes. All right, so we're gonna hold off briefly on 606. And let's move on, please, to B, continued from August 19th, Board of Health meeting, variance request from Town of Harwich Regulation 1.2108, Cranberry Way, minimum setback requirements.
Good evening. David Clark, Park Engineering. First of all, I'd like to apologize for forgetting about the last meeting. In 32 years, that's never happened before, and I do apologize. So this is a project where the homeowners, one of the homeowners is declining health and needs full-time nursing care. Because of the shortage of available housing, not only in Harwich, but on Cape Cod, they would like to add a second dwelling unit on the property for that home health care professional. The project's been before zoning, and I believe has got its approval. Conservation is holding off approval pending approval from the Board of Health in case there's any changes to the septic system. So the project results in no additional bedrooms, so they're remodeling the interior of the house to combine 2 bedrooms. So, there's no increase in the number of bedrooms on the property. But the ADU does fall within the footprint of the existing Title V system. So we have to provide a new Title V system on the property. So the new system is, as far as size, is in full compliance with Title V. Where it isn't in compliance is setbacks, specifically setback to a coastal bank. This property is basically surrounded by coastal bank. It sits on a small hill, and there's coastal bank in front of it. And this is all part of the Red River estuary. So this is on the western end of it. And the floodplain, the topography of the land behind it, between this property and I can't remember if it's Depot Road or not, is lower than the rest of the neighborhood. So the floodplain goes around this property to the backside. And so technically, under the Wetlands Protection Act, there is a secondary coastal bank on the backside of this property. So there isn't a place on the property to put a system that's in full compliance. Even if we didn't do this ADU, if we were to upgrade to the existing regulations, we would basically have the same setback problems. So there's no place on the property to make it better, regardless of the ADU. So as mitigation for not being in compliance with the setback from the coastal bank, we are offering a treatment unit to reduce the impacts of the wastewater on particularly the salt marsh, which we're more than 100 feet away with the leach field, but given the dynamics of the neighborhood, as far as the wetlands that are around this property, we're offering to put the treatment in to reduce the impact of nitrogen on the saltwater estuary. As far as the setbacks from the coastal bank, Title V put that in there basically to ensure that any system located near the bank doesn't destabilize the bank. We're 64 feet away from what we call a regulatory coastal bank, and with the silt fence that'll be installed, this system will have no impact on the stability of that bank. That most of that 64 feet will remain undisturbed, and so the integrity of the bank will be preserved. That's my presentation. Happy to answer questions.
Appreciate the addition of the IA tank right off the bat. Any comments, questions from the board? Any concerns? The open discussion.
I don't have any.
If the board is ready to move, we can make a motion on this if nobody has any additional discussion. Any concerns from the public? Anybody here regarding this issue? No? Any motions from the board?
Move to approve the variance of Cranberry Way with the following conditions. Property is restricted to a maximum of 4 bedrooms, no increase in habitable space or square footage without further review by the Board of Health. IA technology required. A signed operation maintenance agreement for the alternative system shall be submitted to the Board of Health, to the Health Department prior to the release of the disposal system construction permit. The O&M agreement for the alternative system shall include requirement for testing. This testing shall be conducted in accordance with the Board of Health protocol. The approved letter and conditions will be recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds.
Second.
Seconded? Vote?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much, and I appreciate you taking this out of order.
All right, a couple items of new business. Variance requests from Title V, 310 CMR 15.211, 14 Wawatasi, minimum setback requirements.
Good evening. For the record, I'm John O'Reilly with J.M. O'Reilly and Associates, representing the Hoolies. The Hoolies are approaching the board looking for several variances that would allow them to reconstruct the existing building, existing four-bedroom building into a new four-bedroom building. Back in '98, this property did go through a variance review with the Board of Health. There were there was a sideline setback and two setbacks to the foundation. Excuse me, one sideline setback and one setback to the foundation, which were granted. And the Hoolies have gone through and sought and obtained a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals. They have received an approval from the the Harwich Conservation Commission. And we're here tonight to hopefully get an approval from you folks to allow for the reconstruction of the dwelling as well as a new septic system. So the new dwelling has a different configuration or a different footprint than the existing dwelling that's on the property. And what we've tried to do is maintain as much of the setbacks that were originally approved. But we do have two additional setbacks that we're asking for. One is the setback from the septic tank to the property lines, and then a leaching facility to a full foundation. So the property line setbacks for the tank is 5 feet with a 6-foot variance to the leaching facility to the full foundation. We are offering Advantex denitrification system, and you can see that I provided you some nitrogen loading calculations which show a substantial decrease of the overall load of the existing four-bedroom home. I've also given you a section through the foundation that will show how effluent may travel through the soil column and how a 14-foot setback does provide the necessary separation from the effluent to the foundation wall. We are dealing with, the property is partially within a floodplain. We are trying to keep the septic tank out of the floodplain, and the leaching facility is partially within the floodplain, just given the topography of the lot. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Any questions brought up by the board regarding 14 Wawatasi? Again, appreciate the inclusion of the nitrogen systems off the bat. I don't have any concerns regarding this issue. If the board has no other questions, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance on 14 Wawatasi Road with the following conditions. Property is restricted to a maximum of 4 bedrooms. No increase in habitable space or square footage without further review by the Board of Health. IA technology is required. Signed operation and maintenance agreement for the alternative system shall be submitted to the Health Department prior to the release of the disposal system construction permit. The O&M agreement for the alternative system shall include a requirement for testing. This testing shall be conducted in accordance with the Board of Health protocol. This approval in letter and conditions must be recorded at the Barnstable Registry of Deeds.
Is there a second?
Second.
Vote?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, variance request from Food Code 105 CR 59000, Chapter 6, Dive, Dine, and Drink, 986 Route 28, request for a dog-friendly space. Hello?
I'm Nicole Cassette, the owner of Dive, Dine, and Drink, and just here to request the variance for a dog-friendly space outside, specifically not during regular dinner hours, but specifically more for events that would be dog-friendly events. For example, on a Saturday or a Sunday from the hours of 1 to 3, something in that timeframe, but not a regular dinner service type of dog-friendly space, if that makes sense.
It makes sense what you're requesting. The front porch,
The front porch, yes.
is that intended during the summer to be open and have tables at it?
Yes,
Okay.
for dinner service. We're open 4 to 9.
I mean, if we're gonna, discuss the approving as a dog-friendly space, I have concerns about having it open as a dog-friendly space only during special events if you have regular dinner service there as well.
Right, so Wacquasit does it.
You know anything about that, Carrie?
It's been brought to our attention, I think Wacquasit is a hotel ground, so it's a little different. I know our Jen has looked into what Wacquasit's doing. If they're doing other events within the specific dining areas, they should be getting the variance. This
So,
is,
and my concern for you is that if we approve a variance, and I'm inclined to, I haven't seen it since it was no longer Castaways. Drove by there when I got out of work today, done a lovely job with the place. And I was looking at the grassy area and I was thinking it was around to the left, which I knew was just like a dirt patch. But I see what you've done off to the right and
Yes.
it made sense to me once I looked at it in person. However, I mean, I can foresee if you've got a dog-friendly variance approval, may very well have patrons come to your door expecting to be able to bring their dog onto the porch during, meal service. I have genuine concerns about that and how that's gonna unfold. I don't know how the best way to approach that would be, Nicole. But, I mean, I think if you're gonna request it, I mean, it should be, if we request you a variance for a dog-friendly space, I think you should be prepared to have dogs in that space at all times. So, it's my 2 cents.
sounds like it might be more of a managerial control for staff to be, we're having a dog-friendly event on this date, they're welcome, but if your intent is to not allow dogs outside of those events, it's gonna be, your control.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can do that, and we can approve it, and they can dictate what days that's allowed. I just want to make sure it's all above board.
As with any of these variances, it's gonna be what the applicant wants, and if we start to have complaints, that's when we get involved to mitigate and either revoke the ability to have dogs, period, or call them in front of you to discuss.
Fair enough. Just wanted to check the boxes.
Yeah.
All right. So, yes, now that I'm looking at this, it goes that way. Like I said, I went down there. It is a fairly significantly, decent-sized grassy area. I've seen that there's certainly plenty of room to bring a dog down there to relieve themselves. The other regulations, making sure that there's, the tools necessary for patrons to be able to pick up after their dogs, the hand sanitizers outside. I mean, if that's my only concern was that partial, you're gonna open it up at some point and not others, but as long as that's not a concern, from the health department, I viewed it, I think it's a great space to be able to do it in. I have no other concerns in addition to that. Any questions from the public? Anybody here?
I have
for-
a question. Is there any reason why you don't want to allow it all the time?
I just think that some people are turned off by the thought of that.
Right, I was just curious what the thought was behind that. All
I
right,
have 2 puppies myself, and I love having them with me all the time, but I don't necessarily want to be sitting next to somebody else, but they're big stinky
All right,
smelly
I was just
dogs.
curious as to what the thought was behind it. Very good.
But I would like to have events on the porch with like a pause on the porch type thing or something like that.
All right, okay.
All right. Any other questions from the board or from the public?
So if you do move to approve, there are the conditions of approval that are outlined in our dog-friendly. It's up to you if you want to read those all every time you go through this, or if you want to just note as outlined in the variance request form.
I think there's a lot of them, and there's a reason we put them in the variance request form, as far as I'm concerned. Would anybody like us to repeat the whole set of rules and regulations that we had in place?
No.
No?
The
All
only
right.
thing that would interest me would be this, that your staff would be educated. I mean,
Yes.
That was a big part of our,
And they're educated
Discussion.
currently because over the summer, we've only had a handful of people come in and ask if the space is dog-friendly. And we've told them, at this time, we can only allow service dogs. And we honestly have had one person bring a service dog on the porch, and that was literally a couple weeks ago. So it hasn't been, there hasn't been a push for it.
Mhm.
The only other thing I'd question is, not question, but like to clarify is, since it's going to be variable times, with whoever is going to be serving at that point, then they need to be trained to be able to tell somebody, hey, your dog is not behaving or whatever, and then that falls back on you, that if there's a complaint, it's not the waitress or waiter. It goes back to you as the responsible person.
I understand that, and at the same point in time, the events that I would be looking to do, and this is like, maybe there'll be 3 or 4 a year, not even, but it would be something that would be dog-friendly on the porch, but it wouldn't be during the dinner service. So there wouldn't be, you wouldn't be sitting there with your dog with menus ordering, and it wouldn't be that type of an event. It wouldn't, there may be light food and light snacks and drinks, but that would probably be it.
All right, but the people that are serving that still need to be aware that if the
Correct.
dogs aren't behaving,
Yes,
that they're responsible and comfortable
yes.
with
And
telling
I
them.
would be hosting these events as well, and I would be
Oh, all
there,
right.
so.
There you go. All right.
And I would just echo, still no dogs in chairs or on tables, and
Yes.
make sure the space is completely sanitized after the event.
Yes.
All right. Do I hear a motion from the board?
Write your, how to say the motion. Owner, no, we're not gonna do the whole thing. So, we accept the variance of dog-friendly space request form for 986 Route 28 in Harwich.
With the conditions approval
With the
outlined in
conditions
the,
as
With the
outlined.
conditions approved
outlined in the form.
and outlined in the form.
Second.
And a vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approved.
Good. Thank you.
Well. All right. And now I think we're at what everybody came here for. 6:06. So as I had initially stated in the very beginning, we are here to discuss the health and safety concerns regarding this project, not everybody's desire to have it happen or not. So there is a chance, if you would like to get up and just voice your opinion and your concern, I want to give you that opportunity, but I would ask if it's not related specifically to the septic and other health concerns, please keep it very brief.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Brian Yurgation. I'm a professional engineer from BSC Group. But before I begin, I did want to take a minute to apologize to, I know that there were a number of people from the public who came last month to hear this matter, and they were only to find out that the meeting was canceled. And the reason for that was because my firm, we didn't properly notify all the abutters as we're required to by law. So I apologize sincerely for the inconvenience that put to everyone, as well as staff who was put in a bad position, and members of the board as well. But turning now to the business at hand, I am here tonight on behalf of the applicant, Campanelli, and we are seeking a variance from Town of Harwich Board of Health Regulation 1.211, which would allow the construction of a septic system with a design flow that is greater than 2,000 gallons per day. The project, as you all know, is currently the home of the Sunday School Ice Cream Shop, and the applicant is proposing to demolish the building and construct a new 3-story building, which would have a total of 28 rental units and include a total of 60 bedrooms. And therefore, the design flow for the proposed facility would be 6,600 gallons per day. And that is the reason that we're here tonight, because any system that exceeds 2,000 gallons per day requires the Board of Health approval. The system, as designed, complies fully with Title V, and it actually exceeds the requirements of the Town of Harwich Board of Health regulations. The property is located, as most of you all know, on Route 28 in Harwich Port. And based on reviewing the town's comprehensive wastewater management plan and the groundwater mapping that's contained therein, groundwater flow at the site is to the south, and that puts it towards Nantucket Sound, kind of just to the west of Wichmore Harbor. The components of the system itself are pretty extensive. They include a 10,000-gallon septic tank, a 10,000-gallon equalization tank, a 10,000-gallon microfast 9.0 processor tank, and a 9,000-gallon pump chamber. The system itself, because the design flow is greater than 2,000 gallons per day, it's required by Title V to be pressure dosed, and that just means that effluent is distributed to the leaching field under pressure versus by gravity. And as a result of that, also, we have to include a total of 2 leaching fields in the system. So the leaching fields for this system are designed, they're in the back portion of the property, and they would be underneath a parking lot. They would be using a precast concrete chamber, which is called Curtec CTL. These chambers are rated for vehicular loading, and they're also suitable for pressure dosing. In addition to the leaching field and all the tanks that I talked about earlier, there's also a 10-by-10 shed which would be required for this project. The shed would house the blower, the control panels for the pumps, and chemical feed equipment. The shed would be constructed with sound attenuating insulation. It has an STC rating of 55. That doesn't mean as much to me or to many people, but if there are questions on that, we can certainly have people speak to that. One of the most common complaints that you hear about septic systems, and certainly IA systems such as this, is that there are some mild earthly odors. And what we've done here is we're providing an underground vent with basically it's a vent pipe, a 10-inch vent pipe, which discharges underground into a big plastic chamber, and that chamber has about 12 inches of natural biological filter material above it, which helps attenuate any odors that may be there. As I mentioned, the system itself, it complies fully with Title V, and in fact, it exceeds the requirements of the town of Harwich. And when I say that, the reason I can say that is because the town of Harwich does not require any enhanced nitrogen removal for this system, and we are providing it. And the applicant has chosen to, at a significant expense, both installation, and there's an ongoing perpetual maintenance requirements as well. And they've chosen to go ahead and voluntarily install a microfast system. So that is not required, and so, the system exceeds those requirements as well. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
So if there are questions from the public as well, this now would be the time to speak up.
We just ask that you introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Marguerite Heffernan. I was wondering if the size of the shed is going to take up any parking spaces, or if it's going to be built not within a parking space or a parking lane. And because our septic systems all have to be cleaned out every, 3 to 5 years, maybe less. Are they going to have to tear up the parking lot in order to clean them?
May I answer now, or?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The first question, the shed is not going to take up a parking space. It will be in a dedicated space. And if you're familiar with the shape of the property, it has the main portion up front, which is right on Route 28. Then it has a little narrow neck that goes to the rear portion where it opens up again. And the shed would be in that narrow portion leading from the front of the property to the rear of the property. The second question you had about the maintenance, because this is an IA system, the applicant will have to enter into a maintenance agreement with the manufacturer, and that will be more than one time a year. It'll be several times a year. There would be, if this was approved, there would most likely be a requirement for monitoring, sampling by the Board of Health. So, and none of that would be require any destructive means. All that would be done above ground.
And how much noise do you know will affect all the neighbors?
Sure, yep. So the blowers themselves, if they were just installed out, not in an enclosed shed, they would be a significant, maybe like a lawnmower. But with the insulation and the sound attenuating of this, it's going to be equivalent to that of a whisper. That's what would be heard on the outside. I'm sorry?
Equivalent of a what?
Of a whisper.
So it depends upon how soft a whisper is or how low, and what the range of the wind is. So all of the residents will hear some types of sounds coming from that machine.
I guess I would respectfully disagree with you on that.
Okay. Can you tell me the square footage of all of this equipment that we will be seeing as residents?
So the only equipment that you will see is a 10 by 10 shed. Now, there will be manhole covers that, yes, if you're looking at the pavement, you'll see manhole covers. But the vent is going to be underground, so you won't see the traditional candy canes that, you see everywhere. All the leaching facilities are below ground, all the tanks are below ground. So all you'll see is a 10 by 10 shed, and I can assure you that it will be tastefully constructed.
Okay.
Hi, Bob Nickerson. I don't have any questions. I have some comments that I want you as a board to consider when you make your decisions. First off, they're asking obviously for 6,600 gallons per day, compared to 2,000. That's 300% more than what you normally would have allowed in your specifications. And I'm very concerned about that. The property's in the Witchmere watershed, so the additional discharge will directly impact the water quality in Witchmere, which is already not great. The structure size could be decreased, reducing the impact to the watershed. If it was a 20-unit condominium, the impact would be only 200% instead of 300% more. This company has maximized everything on this space. They're asking for variances on many different boards. I want you to really consider that issues are actually asking for here. Second, last thing is, sewer access is not anticipated in this section of Harwich for about 40 years. That's a lot of time for these condos to be discharging to Witchmere. And have waivers of this magnitude been provided by the health department when discharging into a sensitive location previously?
So without doing a full research on every property that we've done, the regulation doesn't limit to 2,000 gallons per day. It just requires that any system over 2,000 gallons per day be reviewed by the Board of Health prior to approval. So there are systems in town that are larger than the system that's being proposed. I think the Melrose across the street has a pretty significantly sized system, maybe even comparable to this one. There's also other restaurants in town that have significantly sized systems and other complexes. So it's not that we say you can't have a system greater than 2,000 gallons per day. We just want to see, we want the board to approve those systems and
How
get a
many of
look at
those,
them.
how many of those locations are going into Witchmere Harbor? Zero.
You're asking for you're asking me a question I can't answer on the spot.
Well, I've looked at all the maps that show exactly where each of the watersheds are, and the watershed for Witchmere is very small, and they're right in it.
And so is the Melrose across the street.
No, it isn't. It's in a different watershed. Thank you.
And a question I can't answer, wasn't prepared to answer tonight.
Maybe just to respond to that, my name's Doug Grant, I live at 26 Bayview, which is right behind the Melrose. The Melrose has been there, I'll say it, close to 100 years. We've had our house there for 102 years. So anything that they have been effluent or whatever has been happening for a long time without a major problem. This is a brand-new construction that is going to be adding to the flow. And I will second Bob's comments that being right next to Witchmere, and we have another project, and I understand this doesn't affect it, but what's going down on the Witchmere Harbor Club is also going to be dramatically bigger if that's approved. So we're going to have two major projects that are adding significant influence into Witchmere Harbor, which I don't think is what we want. I think this could be significantly downsized and more effectively reduce the impact on that system. Thank you.
James Hudson, Ridgeport Drive. I'd like to know if there's any kind of measurement that you can do to determine the effect of any kind of effluent that's now going, and what would be forecast to happen to Witchmere Harbor.
Well, I think
I think we have to study this. I'm just not going to sit here and say nitrogen plant's not going to have any impact. The place across the street is just the same size. That doesn't make any difference. You're adding, 600 more gallons. We have to have some sort of quantitative measurement here, in my opinion.
So I think
This might
the
be a-
measurement comes from the nitrogen loading calculations that were done to predict what this system was actually going to put in. I did go recently last week to a conference, and wastewater was discussed, and the average single-family household, 4-bedroom household, puts out 65 milliliters per gallon, where this is proposing 13.
So a typical four-bedroom, single-family household has about 65 parts per million, and this entire complex is gonna be about 13. So less output than a four-bedroom, single-family household.
And that's because of the treatment that they're adding.
You're saying that 6,600 gallons per day is gonna be less than my house?
I'm saying
With the
that
treatment systems that are putting in, that's exactly what we're saying.
data that was presented to me last week at a conference says the average, it-
I think that's, I think you better check that carefully.
Hi, Barbara Nickerson, Route 28. If it's okay with y'all, I'd like to ask a few questions before I make some comments. Is that okay? So I read the application, and yes, I was one of those that was here last month. And I hate to tell you, but I have a hard time believing that a firm such as yours made a boo-boo like that, but that's beside the point. One of the things you had on the nitrogen loading calculations, you had that the natural area with about 14,000 square feet of lawn right now, and they're proposing 30,615 square feet of lawn. Where is that, please? Because everything I see is just like asphalt, concrete, asphalt, concrete. I just don't understand how you're going from one little building and a parking lot to a big facility and not having less impervious material. So, throwing that out, but we'll be here all night otherwise. The other question I have is that, in the letter from the BSC group about the on-site soil evaluation, you indicated that seasonal high groundwater was assumed to be at the bottom of test hole number 4, which was about 20 inches from the surface, which is about 10 foot. So 2 things. We had a very dry winter and spring since, a few weeks after your test holes, we were put on water restrictions. Also, the wastewater master plan for the town indicates that water levels in the Witchmere watershed are between 5 and 15 foot deep. So what if that water was hit at 10 foot? Would that have changed the design at all? I don't know. And just FYI, there is one water well within 150 foot of the property. You already answered my question about the pipes, so good to see that they're going to be proposed to be underground and stuff. So this FAST system that you're talking about proposing, that's the same system used at the Melrose, I think, isn't it? From what I could read.
I'm not certain.
I'm pretty sure it is. So in the wastewater management plan on table 3-5, it reports that there have been 41 reports of exceedances of one or more of the permit limits, including nitrogen, at the Melrose. Now, granted, it's the same system, different location, different operation perhaps, but my point is that there's always going to be potential problems. It's not going to be perfect. I mean, you have exceedances at a wastewater plant sometimes, so just saying that while it looks good that you're going to be discharging less nitrogen than a 4-bedroom house, there are going to be times when we're going to be exceeding the permit levels. All right, now some comments. Thank you for that. And I do want to talk about the nitrogen loading in Witchmere Harbor, which is a mere 500 foot from the site. Witchmere was evaluated under the same Massachusetts Estuary Program initiative as Allen's Harbor, in the 2010 report entitled Linked Watershed Embayment Model to Determine Critical Nitrogen Loading Thresholds with Allen, Witchmere, and Saquatucket Harbor Embayment Systems, Harwich, Mass. It's hard to believe it's already 15 years since they did that. So the major sources of the nitrogen loading include wastewater from residential septic systems, small and on-site packaged wastewater plants, fertilizers from cranberry bogs and people, impervious surface stormwater runoff, and direct atmospheric deposition. Now, land use in the watershed is primarily residential, with accounting for about 94% of the septic loading. As a result of all of the sources, the harbor experiences moderate nitrogen loading, leading to phytoplankton blooms and depleted oxygen bottom waters, AKA hypoxia, degraded sediment, and limits the variability and number of benthic animals and the communities. I teach Mudflat Mania at the Museum of Natural History up in Brewster. And what we do during the summers, we take families, kids, parents, grandparents, et cetera, out to the mudflats at low tide, and we show them what kind of marine invertebrates are available out there in the mudflats. You know, worms, bivalves, et cetera, et cetera. And I can tell you that of the 9 or 12 to 15 organisms we'll find out there, if we find 2 or 3 in Witchmere at this point, because of all of the pollution, we'll be lucky. That's not the case. When's the last time you saw somebody shellfishing out in Witchmere? Not happening. But it used to be, wasn't that long ago. As a result of all these sources, the harbor experiences moderate nitrogen loading, leading to phytoplankton. Oh, I already said that, sorry. So since the septic systems account for 83% of the controllable loading in this watershed, reduction for this nitrogen source could reduce levels of nitrogen within acceptable limits. And I know Harwich does not have a requirement for nitrogen, but shame on Harwich for not having a requirement to remove nitrogen. We need to work on that. Sorry. I'm not going to go through all the calculations I did and everything like that, but so just a couple things, bear with me, please. Right now, the Title V flow from Sunday school is 840 gallons per day for 3.5 months maximum, right? So those other 8.5 months, they're not discharging anything. They're not adding nitrogen to Witchmere. The proposed flow from a 60-bedroom building is 6,600 gallons per day, 365 days a year. And granted, it's going to be at a lower nitrogen level than your 4-bedroom house or perhaps what Sunday school is, but the reality is it's going to be year-round, all the time. It's going to add up. The Witchmere Harbor Shed is very small. It's only about 101 acres. There's only about 123, according to one, 129 parcels, which isn't really a whole lot. 79% of it is residential. So the findings of the Massachusetts Estuary Program, the MEP, said overall the ecological condition moderately to significantly impaired for Witchmere Harbor. Total nitrogen concentration thresholds should be 0.5 milligrams per liter. And existing, we're at 0.81 milligrams per liter. My point is that we need to do something, and they've already said, the report has said that in order to reduce and meet these goals of MEP for Witchmere, 100% of the reduction of nitrogen has to occur to get Witchmere back to where it was 100 years ago. And I don't know about you, but I kind of miss seeing all those clamors out there in Witchmere that we don't see anymore. Thank you.
You don't want to be disappointed, right? Good evening. Bob Piantadosi, 89 Bank Street. I'm going to a little latitude on the direction of the conversation, if you may. It's still pertinent. One question is, what is the the life expectancy of this particular, I'll call it exotic, system that you're installing?
Brian?
Can I, if
Oh,
you don't
yeah,
mind,
I'm
sir,
sorry,
I'll wait-
yeah.
I'll wait
What's-
to
what's-
answer
yeah.
all your questions
Yeah,
at
I'm
the end, if
sorry.
you don't
Your
mind.
life expectancy of that particular system.
I'm sorry, I said I was gonna answer I was gonna take all your questions at the
Well,
end.
that's the one.
Avoid a back and
Yeah.
forth, a lot of time.
One
wasted.
question, that's it, yeah.
I don't know the answer to that,
Okay.
but there are people here who can answer
Okay.
that.
So I'm adding up, there's a 10,000 gallon tank, another 10,000 gallon tank, another 10,000 gallon tank. Is that accurate? Is that correct? Yeah. sounds a lot of tanks in the ground. Equipment failure, equipment life expectancy of these particular systems? Because somewhere down the road, it needs to be repaired, modified, rebuilt, and adjustments or accommodations we're going to have to make 10 years or 15 years down the road. And do we know the answer to that yet? We do. Okay. Yeah.
Sure. So, the concrete is going to be there. That's going to be there for 50 years.
Okay.
All the components. That's the tankage, the three 10,000-gallon tanks, the 9,000-gallon tank. Those will be there 75 years without an issue.
The material they use for the tanks?
Yep.
What's the material?
Concrete.
Concrete. They're all concrete tanks.
They're concrete tanks, correct. As well as the leaching components are precast concrete.
Okay.
They have some injected molded fins, which will last even longer.
Okay.
But going back to what I said earlier, the applicant is required to enter into a service agreement with the manufacturer. They will be required to test the system probably quarterly. I don't know that yet. That's what we will find out. So that means a licensed person is going to have to come down, take samples, send it to the lab, and report those results to the town and to DEP.
So, just on that point, so the original owner, which is Campanelli, will convert this to condo, and then it'll be under condo ownership and leadership. And so the chain of consistency for the maintenance of the system will be out of Campanelli's hands, correct?
I don't agree with that.
No, they're going to own this forever?
Sir, I can't speak to that.
So you guys are not going to own this forever, right?
Through the chair, is this how you want to handle it?
The board should know the longevity, the life of the system, what happens when Campanelli is finished with their project and it converts to condominium and they hand it over to a board. So then they're responsible for the maintenance and the care of this particular pretty exotic system. But I'm getting off point, but that was
The
one of my...
Campanellis are going to be in agreement with the manufacturer. They're going to have a contract with the manufacturer for all the testing that gets done for this site.
And the county monitors all of our IA systems and contracts. So if somebody's out of contract, they usually let us know.
Okay.
Or if they're not testing, they let us know.
And should the property pass hands down the road, in order to operate, with the way it's set up, there's still going to need to be an agreement between the owner of said property
Okay.
and the manufacturer. That agreement is going to have to be part of any sale that may potentially happen down the road. With the system that is proposed, that agreement is always going to need to be in place. There will always be an operation and testing contract with the manufacturer.
Fair enough, thank you.
Okay.
So my comment, again, I'm going off topic just a little bit. So this particular project is based on a bylaw, affordable housing bylaw,
Nothing to do with affordable housing.
Well, it's just, it was built.
I live here, I'm under no delusions that anything that comes up in that is going to be affordable housing.
No,
Nowhere is.
I know, I understand.
So let's move on past that. It's not relevant. I understand it's not going to be
Multi-use, all right, just-
affordable housing.
Multi-use, but terminology, thank you. So let me just back up just a little bit. So at town meeting in 2020, this proposal was in front of the town to create this bylaw for a multi-use project. And so I see the attorneys are coming up, so good. So at that particular 2020 meeting, right before the vote, the town planner at that time gave an explanation to the floor, to the town, what this particular proposal was going to do. And the stipulations or the conditions to go to vote, and the conditions that the town at that time listened to. And so at that meeting, the criteria for the positive vote was the project was going to be affordable, was going to be safe, desirable for the neighborhood, suitable for the site, suitable for the neighborhood. It requires a special permit. These aren't my words. This is town meeting, and I have it on my laptop if you want to listen to it. It requires a special permit. It is not a gimme. Not my words, town meeting. It has to be the appropriate use, appropriate for the site and the location. So, given that criteria that we were given at town meeting to vote on, safe, desirable, suitable for the neighborhood, suitable for the site, and it's not a gimme to get a permit. Excuse me. And it has to be appropriate for the site and location. Not my words. Those are the words the town planner right before town vote. So with those criteria, it got a positive vote. Doesn't meet that criteria. This project,
Did this go through ZBA?
I have no idea.
Okay. Did the project go through ZBA?
We are before the planning board, and the planning board is looking at the special permit requirements. There are 2 special permits for the planning board, but I know that this board is focused on the health and safety. So I think that we're far afield now from where the considerations that you have.
Yeah.
Those considerations would be for planning and zoning.
I understand,
Right.
but
We're going through that process.
given those criteria and those conditions at town vote, it's why this particular project should not be going forward. It should not be in front of you right now.
Okay.
Because it doesn't meet that criteria.
Well, that's for
I understand,
planning and ZBA to make that
but I
determination.
think it's important that you all have that information.
All we can regulate is Board of Health regulations and Title V compliance. So that's all we have to lay.
I understand, but I think that knowing and having the history and the background and how that vote was generated, by the planning board approved it 7-0, and the planner at the time gave us particular conditions that why we should vote on
We'll
it.
get back in front of them again.
I understand, but I think you should have that knowledge also, because you're a part of the town. You may have been at that particular meeting. You may have voted for this. So I think it's important that as you deliberate, you understand that piece of it. Thank you.
And just to clarify, we were only before the planning board because this project did not need any variances. We are not before the Board of Appeals. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question. So I was a president of a condo association moons ago, and I do want to readdress when the ownership changes. I'm just concerned that the testing is just gonna go willy-nilly, because I saw a total chaotic situation. I saw people who were assessed huge amounts, which is not part of this discussion. I think we just need some more clarification when you step out and the owner steps in. And I don't think you can answer that, personally. I don't think you can. It's really gray.
I think the health director has answered that because there is county supervision.
Who answered that?
The health director has answered that today.
There's state regulations on that.
So the county monitors the IA systems in town. So if the contract goes invalid, or they don't have an existing contract, or they're not testing, the county administrator for that division will reach out to us.
It runs into months and months and months of paperwork, and I've been there. That's all I'm saying. I've been there.
It'll be in our condo documents that the future owners need to sign on to that.
That's all. Been there.
Something to add?
I will also want to clarify that we'll be drafting condo documents, and so that will be part of the responsibility in the condo documents.
Of the owners, you mean?
Yes. Not the owners, that will pass to the purchasers of the condos, the condo board, and the condo governance. I mean, we can't,
No, I understand, I lived it, and I just know how it's, unless there's some more fine verbiage, it can get really messy, real quick, and then people are gonna suffer, that's all. That's all I have to say.
It'll be clear in the language. And if someone doesn't want to sign on to that, they're not going to be able to buy one of these condominiums.
I'm Leslie Heffernan. I'm at 20 Freeman Street. And I was just curious, do you have lists of places that have these IA systems already?
We can run a report.
I'd be curious to, see what that looks like or sounds like or whatever. But similarly, like in a shed, with a shed above ground.
I don't know that we know exactly what components as far as, like, the shed is not a usual component for these systems.
What is
Some
it?
people like to add the shed just to have all their control mechanisms in one place, and so they're not getting rained on. It sounds like this shed is being added as more of a sound barrier than necessity, but many times there's just blower units that are at grade level.
Kind of like an air conditioning unit sitting out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's usually covered in like a green landscape box.
Okay.
Just blows within that box, but, and it pumps air into the system.
Because I have similar concerns as others do, from the noise and the smell and, visual, not as much, but that can be a concern too.
Historic practice wasn't to keep record of the size of the systems. The county will allow us to pull reports for how many IA systems are in town, so we can get that data, but as far as identifying larger systems, we'd have to pull a lot of files to compile that data. So systems that have IA technology would be a little easier
Okay,
to pull a quick report on.
all right, thank you.
I'm Diane,
He was
Go ahead. Oh, go
up
ahead.
first, if you don't mind.
go ahead.
Yep.
Hi, my name is David Purdy. I live at 30 Bank Street in Harwichport. This summer, during the hottest days of the summer, we lost electricity. It sounds to me like this operation is going to require a great deal of electricity for these pumps and so on and so forth. I'm assuming there's some kind of a generator related to the system, but even so, this really isn't, I guess, the town's problem, but it is a problem for the people who live there. It appears there's not enough power in some areas of the community to accommodate the amount of electricity that's needed, especially in the summer when it gets hot and humid. And so if the electricity goes off and there's not enough generator power, it's going to start to back up pretty quickly, the effluent. So have you taken any of that? I want to know whether they've taken that into consideration.
I don't know if we have if there's going to be a generator that's necessarily going to be hooked up to this system. We have, Title V requires that we provide a minimum of 24-hour notice, emergency storage volume. So once the alarms start going off, which would happen in a power outage, there would be a minimum of 24 hours of storage before you have, a
Some kind of a
surcharge
battery
maintained.
system?
So there is time for it to be addressed.
Okay, there were also times when the tornado went through, we lost electricity for how many days? 6, 7 days? So I know these seem like extreme circumstances, but these are the circumstances that need to be taken into consideration.
Diane Coulter. I live at 93 Bank Street, and my property, I'm in a butter. My property, my backyard backs up to where the parking lot and the septic and all will be. And my concern is really that about noise, along with this whole project has been, I've worried about noise and the odor now. And I guess you're saying the pipes are underneath the ground, and assuming everything's fine, then that's great, but how do you really know that nobody's going to hear this system and that there won't be any odor? And if something does fail down the road, then who do I go to when the developer, Campanelli, is long gone? Can I call the condo association? Like, who do I go to? And is there going to be someone there that can help me? So, yeah, that's the real life of these things. And, you know, who is in charge? Like someone mentioned the chain of command. How do you know? And anyway, I do want to say that this board, I understand, has the choice to not, even though it exceeds everything or whatever, the Title V and it meets the Harwich requirements, we wouldn't be here tonight if they didn't have a choice to deny, it seems to me. They can either accept or deny or continue. So I don't know, I just think things need to really be thought out and maybe even get more information, more, you know, like show me one of these sheds. Is it quiet? You know, so that's all.
Just want to let you know, if this does get approved and there are concerns, you can always call us and we can handle it. We can address the noise and the odor, and if there's things impacting your property, we do have the ability to address them.
Could I just ask one question? Everybody's been talking about noise. Are you going to tell me that living close there on 28, that you don't get noise from anything else? And it's totally quiet?
Can I speak to that?
Yeah.
I have, it's amazing, but I have an incredibly quiet backyard. And I hear now and then the little ember music. And things in the last year or so has gotten better with that. So I really don't hear cars. Late at night, I can now and then hear people leaving Ember. Maybe 1 in the morning, I might hear a few voices. The cars have settled down. It really is not that noisy. And I'm telling the honest to God truth. It's not bad. So, yeah.
The only reason I'm asking that is I remember not too terribly long ago when everybody came in front of the Board of Selectmen about noise down there in Harwichport. All right, that's all you heard about was noise, noise, noise. And now all of a sudden you're telling me that including Ember was one of the problems.
Because they've been good lately.
So they were the
music
only
is in.
ones. So they were the only
No,
ones.
I agree. That's all I could hear was Ember from my backyard.
Okay.
I'm on Bank Street, and my property backs up
All
to
right, because I'm
this.
just saying.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, but since whatever, the regulations and all with their music, they've had indoor music, I don't, and it never really bothered me anyway,
You don't hear, and I'm asking because I don't know, you don't hear cars, you don't hear
cars
anything
here and
else?
there, but it's something like you get used to living there. And my property's actually set way back, so my house is back from the road. It's not bad. I'm used to it, but I don't.
All right, now let me ask you something.
yeah.
What about, and I don't know, what type of noise does this put out?
We have someone to speak to that.
Okay, all right, whoever's going to speak to it.
Good evening, members of the board. My name's Jeff Wyman. I'm with Campanelli. So we recently hired a sound engineer to run a study on the shed and the equipment it houses. So the conclusion of the report was that there's going to be a minimal sound that is produced by the fan inside the sheds.
Right, no, wait, minimal is what?
So I'm getting there. So the shed's providing sound absorption materials, which I can get into, which help reduce the sound to anywhere from 11 to 21 decibels from 150 feet away. So to put that into perspective for you, That's sound levels equivalent to the buzzing of a mosquito, a whisper at 5 feet, or a ticking of a watch. So what are we doing to the shed to attenuate that sound? The shed walls are going to be constructed of 2x4 studs with fiberglass insulation and drywall on the interior, and 1/2-inch thick plywood with cedar shingles on the exterior. The shed roof is going to be constructed with 2x6 studs also with fiberglass insulation and asphalt shingles on the exterior. And the air vents in the shed wall are designed to minimize sound leakage with an internal S-shaped fiberglass lined baffle. So it's essentially a louver that helps mitigate the sound. But really, to quantify it for you, yeah, the sound levels are going to be between 11 and 21 decibels.
Okay.
You know, anecdotally, I'm wearing a very...
You got to get up to the podium if you're going to speak and introduce yourself. Sorry.
I'm wearing a fairly expensive watch, and I can't hear it either. But my house, in the basement, if I turn anything on, my neighbor can hear it. And it's designed and constructed very much like that shed. So for someone to say that a Rolex watch is as noisy as a blower for a septic system is overstating the mark.
And if you could just state your name too, please.
My name is Joseph Foran. I live in Harwich Port, in Ridgeport. And also regarding effluent and all that good stuff, on very warm days, you can now smell the effluent bubbling up out of Wychmere when you're on a boat. It's quite clear. So go down the road 20 years from now with all of this accumulation of all the different things that we're talking about here, dry weather, climate change, water tables dropping, sea levels dropping, it could end up in a mess. So for someone to predict so precisely that nothing will ever happen when this building is built.
I don't think anything
They
is 100%.
didn't, nobody predicted that.
But we're talking about, we're talking about things like you can't hear the buzzing of a
All right,
mosquito.
let me just, can I stop you for a second? You're saying you don't hear it in your home, and he's telling us that they're putting soundproofing in the
Correct.
shed. Is your home soundproof?
Yes.
It's
The
soundproof.
basement is soundproof as well. And if I start something fairly small, like a radio up, small radio, you can hear it in the front lawn. You certainly can't hear my watch ticking. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you all. My name's Deb Martin. I live on Freeman Street. And just to go on Mrs. Nickerson's thing, talking about Wychmere Harbor and the shellfish, and, compared to over at Cape Cod National Museum, thank you, and the Brewster Flats. Going off the Harwich shellfish website, I just want to let everyone know that Wychmere Harbor is actually closed to shellfish. And it's been closed probably for the last, 10 years, I would say. So it is something that, with the runoff going in there, we really have to, take a look at it. And as Mr. Foran just said over there, at low tide, you can really smell everything coming up. And at low tide, you can actually walk around the whole perimeter of it. Sometimes I take my dog down there, and there's hardly any sea life that's zipping around there at low tide. So just wanted to, with the 365 days of it, dispersing that stuff into there, just take that into consideration, because it is in that watershed, and it is currently closed.
Do we have,
Sorry. Just two things. Am I going to get an answer at some point on when I asked about the lawn, why it was a higher level with the construction of the project versus what it is now in the nitrogen loading charts? I don't need it right now, but I would like an answer as to how that's possible. And second off, one thing, and similar system to what they got at the Melrose, but like Doug, we live across the Melrose, and I can tell you that the septic tanks are there all day, once a month, pumping out their tanks. And I also have concerns about when the Campanelli crew is gone who buys it, where does it run? We have issues at the planning board as far as deeds, as far as turning into verbos, et cetera. But you know that old Mac Davis song, you know, love in your rearview mirror? Well, they'll be singing Harwich in your rearview mirror.
So Brian, I don't know if you can address the question over the increase in lawn area on the nitrogen loading calculations. I think if that was your question, how is it increasing in lawn area from existing to
Yeah.
proposed?
Yeah, it's in the packet that
The nitrogen loading calculations.
Just briefly, Bob Piantosi, again, Harwich Port. Comment was made by the board member about condominium boards, boards of directors, the continuity of that. I served on, as president of two boards, commercial and residential. Continuity is really an issue. Boards come and go. The continuity of the boards, the quality of the boards change. And so the management of this particular project, which is going to be pretty good size, will be in the hands of civilians, people, owners, and depending on their interest level and their level of expertise. Some will be doctors, and some will be lawyers, and some will be accountants, and some will be nurses, and some will be something else. So the consistency and that you need to manage one of these properties is variable at best. And I think I see agreement across the table there. And that's a concern for all of us, because you might have a great board, and they're really on their game, and they pay attention, and they do everything, and they call the right people at the right time, and then another board may not be quite so good. So that's how condominiums function. When the Campanelli Group, and I don't want to disparage them, you know, it's a successful company, and you know they're good people, but when they're gone, it's managed by someone else. And depending on the level of expertise you have managing this kind of system, this many units, in a fragile environment, Wishmere Harbor, and then all of the complexities going on with the Melrose and new construction, this is a very scary proposition. And we just spent how much, you know, at Colebrook to mitigate nitrates, and we've done a super job, and the town buys, you know, conservation land to stay ahead of the curve, and then we throw this into the mix, and we take all of that away. And we're trying to do good stuff, we're trying to mitigate, and then we get thousands of gallons of effluent that we're going to have to process, and hopefully successfully. I'm not so sure. Thank you.
I'd like to put something else in there. As far as the contract with the AI systems, I believe that's statewide as well. It's not just,
Well, the Title V requires the contract for monitoring. We have the county that has the monitoring program, so all of the
but
Cape
but that's
towns.
all falling under,
Correct. It's supposed to be recorded on the deed that it's a requirement. The testing will be the life of the system.
yeah.
The testing amounts may change over time, just based on the Title V approval letters, but
I guess what I'm trying to say is if it gets sold, that's going to be I'm going to call it a state regulation based under Title V. So it's not going to fall through the hands. I wouldn't expect it to. So just, I know what you're saying and a lot of condos, there's a lot of stuff that does. I don't think this particular issue is going to be one of those that would fall through. I think that's going to be, the state's going to watch that as well, because they're looking to find out what systems work well and how well they work. All right? So they're monitoring all of these AI systems, not just this one, but any IA system that's out there. They're going to be monitoring that. So, and they're going to make sure that there's a maintenance contract.
the county's going to monitor that.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
state is not monitoring these.
No, but
But they've done the testing on them,
But
and
my
they've gone
understanding
through
was
state
that the
approval.
information goes back to the state,
No, it doesn't. It goes to the county.
but from the county to the state.
No,
All right.
no.
That's, all right, that's a little bit different than what I remember seeing on the state's website.
So the state does testing prior. So before any approvals are getting given for any new technology, the technologies have to go through state testing. So the state has to determine before they're permitted that they're capable of meeting the expectations that they claim.
All right, okay. That was a little different than what I remember reading, but that was a couple of years ago.
Just, if I may, just really quickly, just to touch on it. Yeah, we have that the lawn is increasing from approximately 14,200 square feet up to 30,600 square feet. I don't know how to answer how or why, it just, that's
Just gonna have more grass area and
there's
less
more
parking than
grass,
what's currently
there's
there.
less pavement, yeah.
If I can add, the buffers around the side, this is getting into zoning versus what you all are considering, but the
Well,
buffers
if
around.
it's related to the nitrogen loading
right,
calculation, I think
okay.
that was the question.
Okay. But there's more grassy area around the buildings now than there was before.
And parking is also, the impervious surfaces are also calculated in your nitrogen loading.
Yes, they are.
So they have a different calculation.
Yep.
Of all the points brought up this evening, I think maybe the biggest one that kind of rang hard in my ears was the issue with emergency situations, where this system is set up and pumps are necessary. And the fact that there's a 24-hour built-in, I think that's a great, baseline. And Carrie, I don't know exactly where this falls underneath, so if you need to step in on me here, please do so.
May I respond? Sure.
I haven't even said anything
Okay.
yet. You may. Is there the capability, and this is partially to you guys and to Carrie, of having an emergency system in place that will keep those pumps running? Some type of generator system where that system, given the 24 hours, understand for the power to come back on through the power companies to do their thing. Let's say that 24 hours is up and its power's not still back on, like the tornado we had a couple of years ago. Is there some kind of a fail-safe or backup system that will help maintain those blowers and everything going?
Well, we could go with a bigger.
Introduce yourself.
Rob DeMarco, 606 Main Street, Sunday School, Harwichport. We could go with a bigger UPS system. We could also, create a plug-in for a portable generator that if the UPS, so we could perhaps double the UPS system for 24 hours to 48, create a plug-in for a portable generator to mitigate a emergency situation. Certainly don't want to see it go bad. That's not what we're here for.
Yeah, I think that would be, I would also, and because I don't have it here in front of me, I would like to see like the watershed, the actual plan for that, and where exactly that lands. I know somebody mentioned, we mentioned the Melrose, and somebody said Melrose isn't a part of that watershed. I haven't seen that in front of me. I would like to at some point, but I think a big thing I would like to see is a definitive kind of emergency plan should the power be out longer than the 24 hours.
Makes sense.
Okay. And I could speak to you about the watershed, and we could get that information.
So we can either present that in a packet if you're looking for information to continue the hearing till next month. I think we pointed out the Melrose because it's across the street and I think a little closer to the actual
To the harbor.
bay, but
Yeah, I
don't-
think
don't quote
physical
me on that. I'm
proximity,
just
it would be
going off
closer,
memory
but
without
I-
looking
yeah.
at a map.
Exactly.
It's not closer to the water? Okay. So we measured from the corner of the property online, okay, to the Witchemere, and it's over 500 feet away from the water. But where it sits within the watershed, we would need the map to,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's why I would like to see it. I would, anyway.
Small point
Yes.
on this, I believe, in Carrie and Brian, when we had our meeting, we took out the town maps about the groundwater flow. And the groundwater does not flow towards the Witchmere Harbor. You can check out the town maps if you'd like. And so then it flows, towards the Melrose, towards Nantucket Sound. And we reviewed that with Carrie in her
You
office.
gave us a copy of that.
And just as a point of clarification, watershed implies surface water drainage, stormwater runoff, and the direction of groundwater flow is not necessarily always mirror surface. So just have to be careful with the term watershed, I guess, what it's implying.
Is it possible that for the next meeting, that we get somebody from water, wastewater to come to the meeting?
To speak on what?
Well, there seems to be a lot of back and forth as to whether this is an acceptable system because of the nitrogen going into whichever sound, all right. I think it would be nice to hear from them, since they're also part of the CWMP. I know that's being revised, but I'm not sure when that was going to be finished, or how much a difference that's going to make. But I think it would be nice to involve them in, I would feel more comfortable having sat on wastewater and knowing what I do, and hearing some of the comments don't necessarily fall in line in what I was familiar with. I'm not saying that that stayed the same. It could change. I just think that might be a good idea to have them available for maybe some of the questions that we can't answer. I heard somebody make a comment that it may not get sewered for 40 years. I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that. And I know it's being revised as part of the CWMP. I don't know where they are with that. I have no idea. But, and I think back in the beginning, it was going to be one of the last ones done. I don't think that's the case anymore, but I don't know where we stand with that. And I think that also would make a difference. I think that would make a difference. So I'm thinking maybe to hear, I'm going to say from the horse's mouth, some of these questions that maybe we can't answer, or we don't know how to evaluate because we don't have the answers to. And I think maybe having somebody like that also.
I can reach out to Jason. I don't know that he would be able to speak on how a Title V system would impact Witchmere.
Would that be Jason, or would it be Dan?
Jason. Jason's the wastewater commissioner.
All right, but I don't know how familiar he is with our CWMP. And
So I would let him go to Dan where
and
Dan's
let him
his
go to
consultant.
Dan with it, all right.
He needs that, but-
All right. But I think maybe something like that would be very beneficial for the next round to maybe answer some
He
questions.
may not have any additional information. He may have information in regards to the sewer and that, but, I mean.
I would think maybe some of the questions that we ask, if he doesn't have the answer, he can go back to Dan with.
I think
I mean,
maybe.
I also think, we are dealing with a plan here that is not accounting for sewer, because it's not there now. The plan has the tanks and the IA technology to operate without the sewer in place. The sewer comes through 10 years down and gets hooked up down the road. That's an added bonus. But the plan, I don't even think the sewer has to come into the plan as it is. I mean, I think by the time the 75 years are up, that the concrete and everything would run out, I would assume that hopefully the rest of the town, I won't be here, but that everything would be, sewered at that point anyway.
And then maybe also making a clearer demonstration of groundwater flows, just a little more precise than this.
I would like to
map.
see the groundwater flow as compared to the watershed, definitely. And I would love to see a plan in place for emergencies, should the power be off longer than 24 hours, before I make a vote on it.
Just as a quick point, I can certainly make that plan bigger, Carrie, that groundwater contour, which is right out of the CWMP, but I can't alter it.
Right, right, just
Yeah.
asking you to just
Just
clearly demonstrate,
make it-
so it can be a better visual for
Understood.
people.
Yep.
Rather than this little,
Yep.
Can I just ask one quick question? Because I've been to many of these meetings, but I wanted to find out exactly where the lawns are being put in. Because every time we've come to a meeting, it looks like all blacktop with shrubs around. And the green space was going to be mostly on the balcony, on the third floor. So I just wanted to find out, all of a sudden, we're having lawns someplace. So I wanted to find out where exactly the lawns are gonna be now. With the greenery on the ground, where's that gonna be?
Through the chair? You can ask that question at the planning board in a couple weeks, and we can address it there, or when we come back here as requested, we'll present that plan here as well.
Okay, thank you.
And are these plans available
everything
to
is
the
available
public? If people want to
online.
come down and check it out online, you can look into it yourself in detail as well. But if a further explanation of the lawn could be brought next month as well, would be appreciated.
Do you have any pictures, like very often they have, you know, the pictures that they can show everything that, something visual, these are,
And I think this
These are
is just to
tough.
confirm the nitrogen loading calculations and what's put on that, because as far as lawn area, that's the only time it's referenced, is when we do those calculations, so.
Understood.
Thank you all for discussion. You know, I appreciate the fact that it was open, and there was nothing, you know, malicious or anything that came. I really appreciate the openness and the willing to have the discussion about things. I want to give one more chance today, if there's any other questions or comments that the public feels they need answered
what about online?
currently. And this is gonna come back next month, so you got more time to think about it. But if there's any now, to give everybody a little chance to, you know, bring us answers next month. If you still got questions, please bring them up now.
Anybody online?
Anything else? Sorry, so you getting up in the, anything else, any questions? Fair enough, okay.
Just gonna make a motion to continue to the next meeting date.
Motion from the board?
Option 1, continuation if the board will require additional information or wants to take the matter under advisement. The following motion is recommended. Move to continue the hearing for proposed variance for 606 Route 28 to no earlier than 6:30 PM on the next meeting, which is October 21st.
In order to bring those plans, please, a emergency plan, a better depiction of the grass and the watershed versus groundwater runoff. I would like to see all of those things before a vote takes place.
And we'll have an easel as well for you to put those up on.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
We'll have an easel as well for you to put those
Thank
up
you.
on.
Okay.
Any second to that motion? Vote?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
your time.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Witchmere has a big project also, doesn't it?
They were in front of the Cape Cod Commission. I think they withdrew at this point in time.
They wanted to go from 32 to,
They had a large project, yeah.
yes. Did they withdrew that?
So,
I believe they withdrew that from the commission.
so this is only one little piece of the whole pie, right?
Yes.
So we're just voting on.
Thank you all, your patience.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Is it
On the septic.
safe for the health of the
Is it,
public?
is it compliant with our regulations
It's all
and?
new to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, So is this all or none? So many units, or it has to be all or none?
It's what they're presenting. You can either approve or deny.
Okay, so that you can't say maybe half?
Mhm.
No.
Well, it's up to them to bring back.
We could tell them, we're not gonna approve it with this many, you need to come
Right.
back
They can
with
bring
something
back-
that's 20, but then that would have to be continued, correct?
It's a learning curve.
And
That-
I'm not sure if this went through conservation or not too, which would have, they would have more of a say over the impact of.
That was my other question,
Which, I
you
mean-
know. You would think they would, the planning board and conservation would get it before we do.
Yeah.
Not always. They go
No,
through
no.
sometimes they'll go through the boards that are easier to get through or harder to get through, depending on the scope of the project. They might want to just get but.
But I would
Um,
also, then, I'd like us to wait until we hear from conservation and planning.
I will reach out to conservation and I will reach out to wastewater. I think planning will probably be the last step they get through because that's probably going to be the most of their,
Was there a traffic study done on that also?
I'm not sure. Attend the planning board meetings.
All right, report from the health director.
Okay, well, we have some exciting news, which I wish we still had a full crowd for. A coalition of the Lower Cape and Outer Cape towns announced the regional launch of Credible Mind, a free, confidential, and science-based online platform that helps residents discover expert-vetted, evidence-based mental health and well-being resources and local supports. The initiative offers an accessible entry point for people to learn, self-assess, and connect to help before they are in crisis. South Hadley and Mashpee have also adopted the platform, reflecting growing municipal momentum across the Commonwealth. Residents of Brewster, Chatham, Eastham, Harwich, Orleans, Provincetown, Truro, and Wellfleet can visit lowercapecrediblemindcom to explore hundreds of curated videos, articles, podcasts, apps, and books on topics such as stress, anxiety, sleep, parenting, grief, and substance use. Designed as a prevention-first resource, especially helpful for parents and caregivers, the platform meets people where they are at with vetted, peer-reviewed content and clear pathways to local services, so residents can take practical steps right away. Users can take self-assessments, save favorites, and return anytime anonymously. Participating towns will only receive aggregate, de-identified insights about what topics people are exploring. These trends will help local health and human service teams tailor outreach, inform programming, and address the region's wide provider gaps while strengthening overall quality of life. The platform provides trusted evidence-based content, peer-reviewed articles, and expert-rated resources updated regularly, confidential self-assessments, learn about personal well-being, and track progress over time, local connections, simple pathway to town and regional services and supports, community insights, aggregated trends, help public agencies tailor prevention and early intervention efforts. Again, it's anonymous. We're only getting topics. It is also important that Credible Minds is for education and self-help and is not a crisis service. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger or experiencing a mental health emergency, call 911. For urgent emotional support, call or text 988 Suicide Crisis Lifeline. We also have our flu clinics coming up. We will be hosting a public flu clinic on October 16th from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Harwich Community Center, and an employee flu clinic on October 21st from 3:30 to 5:30, also at the Harwich Community Center. And that's the director update.
Okay, I have a question. What do we call this? The HTTPS,
Yep,
that thing. The
address.
Yes,
Web
all right.
address.
Now, you pointed out, it is on here, but it's over here with that little globe-type thing, all right? And I totally missed it. I would not have seen that. My question is, can we put this address on our website for this?
Yes.
Because I would not have seen that, and I don't do the scan.
It's already on our website.
Great.
Yep.
All right, all right.
This
All
is
right.
also a social media post that we took a picture of, just to give you some information. We're still waiting on flyers to put up around town as well.
All right, great, great, great.
Awesome, that's much needed.
Yes, we're
I mean,
really
I know Outer Cape Health, we're better equipped than we were a year ago, but still don't have enough providers, counselors to meet the demand, you know, so
This
it's awesome
coalition has
news.
been trying for over a year to get this service in place, so we're really
Fantastic.
excited to see it launch.
Great news.
Yep.
Very good.
All right, moving on to permits. New licenses are listed here in everybody's packets. Any questions or concerns regarding the permits?
Make a motion to grant all the permits. Listed.
Seconded, vote?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Want to vote, Ron?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, yeah.
All right. Permits are passed. Just leaves one thing.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Is that motion seconded?
Second.
Vote?
Aye.
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 Okay.
All right.
All right.